party over branch pool irregularities.
Former NAFCO CEO's lawyer threatened contempt action against AG over airport arrest.
I'm carrying out my father's final directives, not seeking inheritance. Ajwa Safo.
No degree is useless in an economy that works. Kweku Asare replies Educhum.
Journalists can avoid defamation liability by taking the right boxes. Tanko Musa.
President Mahama celebrates U.S. on 250th independence anniversary, reaffirms strong Ghana-U.S. ties.
No injuries recorded in Tema warehouse fire. Melcom.
Northern and transition belts on alert as GMET predicts widespread thunderstorm.
The Fuel Democratic Congress (NDC) in the Lower Menya Krobo constituency have petitioned the party's Eastern Regional Secretariat and Elections Directorate to replace the official supervising the ongoing branch elections. The petitioners allege procedural breaches, including irregularities in the electoral process and perceived bias in supervision, which they said could undermine confidence in the elections and deepen tensions within the constituency. At a press briefing in Agomaya, Mr. Tokono Edem Luke, a member of the constituency's communication team, presented the petition on behalf of the group and called for urgent intervention to safeguard the credibility and integrity of the party's internal electoral processes. The group, according to the petitioners, the alleged breaches include the improper composition of elections committees, participation of ineligible aspirants and unauthorized alteration to branch voter registrations. They further claimed that some members who raised concerns about the process had been subjected to intimidation and threats, describing such conduct as inconsistent with the democratic principles underpinning the party's internal elections. The group also alleged that the supervisor's action had created perceptions of bias among some aspirants and contributed to growing tensions in a number of branches, thereby eroding confidence in the electoral process and threatening party unity in the constituency. Citing an incident at the Lucky Day 1 and Lucky Day 2 branches on June 30th, 2026, the petitioners said disagreement over the eligibility of a women's organizer aspirant disrupted the elections. They contended that the supervisor's insistence that the position should proceed unopposed heightened tensions and fueled disagreement among members. They consequently called for the suspension of the ongoing branch elections, a formal investigations into the allegations, and the appointment of a neutral supervisor to restore confidence in the process. The group also urged party leadership to assure members that grievances could be reported without fear of intimidation or victimization. Responding to the allegations, Alhaji Mahama rejected the claims and maintained that all actions taken during the elections were consistent with NDC rules and established procedures. He explained that at the Odumase Presbyterian Election Center, concerns were raised regarding the eligibility of an aspirant, prompting the supervisory team to request the relevant register and supporting documents for validation.
Lawyers for Hanan Abdul Wahab have announced plans to initiate contempt proceedings against the Attorney General, Deputy Attorney General, and the Director of Bureau of National Investigation (BNI), alleging they deliberately violated a High Court order by causing their client's arrest at the Accra International Airport despite judicial approval for his travel. The legal team has also insisted that there was no valid court order freezing Abdul Wahab's bank account at the time of the incident. In a statement issued on Sunday, June 4th, Counsel of Abdul Wahab, Godfred Yabu-Adame, described as false claims made by Deputy Attorney General Dr. Srem Sai in a Facebook post on July 4th, 2026, which sought to justify the arrest. According to the lawyers, the High Court in Accra, presided over by Justice Achibonga, a Court of Appeal judge sitting as an additional High Court judge on June 29th, permitted Abdul Wahab to travel to United Kingdom from July 4th to July 12th for a medical appointment with his optician. The statement said the court granted the application after hearing submissions from both the defendants and prosecution, including Dr. Srimsai, adding that the order was in line with established judicial precedent allowing accused persons standing trial to travel for medical and other legitimate reasons. Dame argued that several high-profile accused persons, including Dr. Stephen Opuni, Seidu Agongo, Alhaji Collins Dauda, Dr. Kasiel Atoforsen, and Dr. Kwabena Dufuo, had previously been granted similar travel permission while facing criminal proceedings. The lawyers further rejected allegation that Abdul Wahab attempted to withdraw funds from a frozen Republic Bank account before leaving the country. Dami maintained that there was no valid freezing order in force. According to the statement, any previous freezing orders lapsed after the prosecution withdrew earlier charges against Abdul Wahab on May 5, 2026, leading to his discharge. The statement further referred a ruling by the High Court at Adentan on May 20th, 2026 in relation to fresh charges filed on May 15th, in which the court said to have held Abdul Wahab's rearrest initiated a fresh process, implying there was no subsisting freezing order. Damis said the legal position had already been communicated to the Executive Director of Economic and Organized Crime Officer, Iyoko, in a formal letter delivered by about 2 weeks ago. The legal team accused the Attorney General's office of misleading the public and unlawfully deploying the BNI to arrest Abdul Wahab on allegations they insist are unsupported by evidence, describing the airport arrest as a blatant and willful violation of a High Court order. Damis said contempt proceedings would be filed against the Attorney General, his deputy, and the director of the BNI.
Moving on to other news, former Member of Parliament for Dome Kwabena, Sarah Adwoa Safo, has rejected suggestions that the dispute surrounding the Crystal Asafo mission is about church leadership ambitions or inheritance, insisting that her only objective is to uphold the final directives of her father, the late Apostle Kweju Safo. In a statement issued on Friday, July 3, 2026, following what she described as an assassination attempt on her life on June 21st, Adwoa Safo said public speculation had misrepresented the issues at the center of the dispute. Adwoa Safo said she had never sought personal wealth or financial benefits from her late father's estate, describing herself as self-made and committed to a life of integrity and independence. According to her, the dispute centers on the implementation of amendments to the church's constitution directed by the late Apostle Kweju Safo in 2024. She said the revised constitution removed Israel Kweju Safo as the leader of the church and subsequently installed her as head of the Kantanka family in February 2025. On his deathbed, my dad instructed me to ensure that this provision was expressly upheld, and I consider it my duty and responsibility to honor that directive as his first child, she said. Adwoa Safo also dismissed claims that her father's estate lacked legal direction, stating that he left a valid will governing the administration of his estate. It is also important to state clearly that my dad did not die intestate. He left a valid will, which I believe sets out definitive provisions for the administration of his estate, including his properties and inheritance, all of which will be properly addressed and given effect upon the formal reading and execution of the same, she said. The former legislator said her overriding objectives was to ensure justice for her late father, her family, and the Crystal Asafo Church, while reaffirming her commitment to carrying out what she described as her father's final wishes.
Moving on, governance expert Professor Kweku Asare has pushed back against suggestions that some university programs have become irrelevant, arguing that Ghana's graduate unemployment challenge is rooted more in economic weaknesses than the courses students pursue. Governance expert Professor Kweku Asare has pushed back against suggestions programs. His comments follow remarks attributed to former Education Minister Dr. Yao Osei Edichum, who reportedly described development studies at the University for Development Studies (UDS) and BA Education, non-teaching at the University of Ghana as degrees to nowhere. In a Facebook post responding to the debate, Professor Asare described the comments as unfortunate, particularly coming from a former education minister and advocate for education reforms. Coming from a former education minister and a lifelong education reformer, I find those remarks, if accurate, unfortunate, he wrote. According to him, while universities must ensure their programs remain relevant and responsive to the changing demands, the conversation about graduate unemployment must go beyond simply blaming academic disciplines. He argued that employment opportunities are influenced largely by the strength of the economy and the ability of industries to create sustainable jobs. Professor Asare said the solution should not be labeled some program as useless, but to strengthen accountability within universities and improve alignment between education and labor market needs. He called for the publication of graduate employment outcomes, regular labor market forecasting, and the integration of digital, analytical, and entrepreneurial skills into all academic programs. According to him, such reforms would better prepare graduates for emerging opportunities instead of creating the impression that some fields of study have no value. Professor Asare further argued that Ghana's political and economic system require urgent reform if the country wants to address the root cause of graduate unemployment. He maintained that building a stronger economy would naturally create more opportunities for graduates across different fields. Fix the politics and the economy has a fighting chance. Fix the economy and a far fewer degree will be called degrees to nowhere, Professor Asare added. The debate has sparked wider discussion about tertiary education, employability, and whether Ghana's universities are producing graduates aligned with the country's development needs.
Moving on, a lawyer and lecturer at the University of Media, Arts and Communication, UNIMAC, Zakaria Tanko Musa, has reassured journalists that defamation law does not shut the door on robust reporting, stressing that media practitioners can protect themselves from liability if they adhere to the basic standards of responsible journalism. Speaking on Joy News' The Law on Sunday, July 7th, Mr. Musa said the growing wave of defamation suits against journalists should not leave media practitioners feeling paralyzed or afraid to publish stories in the public interest. Mr. Musa explained that the law provides several defenses that journalists can rely on in defamation cases, provided they are able to show that they followed the right processes before publication. He said the courts are often mindful of the critical role journalists play in a democratic society and would take that into account when assessing defamation claims, especially where the journalist has acted responsibly and without malice. Mr. Musa stressed that where journalists have done what is expected of them professionally, including verifying facts, acting fairly, and avoiding malice, they stand a reasonable chance of successfully defending themselves if sued.
Moving on in other news, President John Dramani Mahama has congratulated the government and the people of the United States on the country's 250th independence anniversary, expressing confidence that the long-standing partnership between Ghana and the US will continue to grow through shared democratic values and economic cooperation. In a statement issued on Sunday, July 5th, by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the President extended Ghana's goodwill to the United States, describing the milestone as an opportunity to reaffirm the enduring friendship between the two countries. In a message to U.S. President Donald J. Trump, President Mahama said the bilateral relationship continues to be strengthened by a shared commitment to democracy, the rule of law, human rights, and economic prosperity. The ministry noted that Ghana and the United States have enjoyed cordial diplomatic relations since Ghana gained independence in 1957, with the U.S. among the first countries to establish formal diplomatic ties with the West African nation. According to the statement, the relationship has evolved over the past decades through cooperation in trade, investment, infrastructure, education, and cultural exchange. It cited major bilateral initiation including the Akosombo Dam, the Volta Aluminium Company, the Millennium Challenge Compact, the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act AGOA, as well as partnerships in the social sector and growing strategic trade and investment. The ministry also highlighted decades of high-level engagement between the two countries. Former U.S. President Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama all paid landmark visits to Ghana, while successive Ghanaian presidents, including Jerry John Rawlings, John Agyekum Kufuor, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and President Mahama, have undertaken official visits to the United States. It further praised the support people-to-people ties between Ghana and Americans, saying they have contributed to deeper mutual understanding and expanded educational and cultural exchanges. President Mahama concluded his message by wishing the government and the people of the United States a peaceful, joyous, and successful celebration of their 250th independence anniversary. Moving on to other news, Melcom Limited has confirmed that no injuries or casualties were recorded following the fire that engulfed one of its warehouse facilities at the Tema-Free Zone enclave. In a statement issued on Sunday, July 5th, the company said the incident had significantly impacted its operations, but assured customers that steps were already underway to restore activities with minimal disruptions. Although the incident has heavily impacted us, we are committed to restore the operations with minimal interruptions and will do our best to ensure availability of stock to continue to serve our esteemed customers, the statement said. The company emphasized that the safety of employees, business partners, and surrounding communities remains its highest priority, noting that the absence of casualties was a key relief following the blaze. Melcom has also expressed appreciation to the Ghana National Fire Service, the National Disaster Management Organization NADMO, the Ghana Police Service, emergency responders, and all other agencies that helped contain the fire. According to the statement, management is working with relevant authorities to determine the cause of the fire, while an internal assessment is underway to establish the extent of damage to the facility. He added that measures are being implemented to secure the affected warehouse and support restoration of operations, including efforts to ensure continued availability of stock for customers. A massive fire swept through the company's warehouse at Tema-Free Zone's enclave on Saturday, prompting a large-scale response from the Ghana National Fire Service, which deployed multiple fire engines to bring the blaze under control. Moving on to some climate change, the Ghana National Meteorological Agency GMET has forecast thunderstorms and rain across parts of northern and transition Ghana today, as an active rainstorm currently situated along the Nigeria-Benin border is expected to move westward during the day. In its 18-hour weather outlook, the agency said the weather system is likely to affect portions of the northern and transition belts from mid-morning into the afternoon, increasing the chances of widespread thunderstorms accompanied by rain of varying intensity.
The forecast indicates that early morning conditions across much of the country will be dominated by mostly cloudy skies, with patches of mist and fog expected over sections of the coast, forest, and mountainous areas. The reduced visibility is expected to ease later in the morning as temperatures rise. GMET said slight to moderate rain is likely over a few coastal communities during the morning before weather conditions become more unstable. As the day progresses, most coastal and inland areas are expected to experience intervals of sunshine, followed by increasing cloud cover and thunderstorms with rain extended into the afternoon and evening. Northern communities, including Tamale, Yendi, Bolgatanga, Nariwigu, Wa, and Damango, are expected to bear the greatest impact of the advancing rainstorm, with thunderstorms forecast from the morning through the afternoon. Parts of the transition belt, including Ketekrache, Atebubu, Ejra, Kentampo, are also likely to experience thunderstorm activity later in the day. Across southern Ghana, areas such as Accra, Aflao, and Anglaga are expected to receive light rain during the morning, while Takoradi, Cape Coast, Kumasi, Obuasi, and other inland locations are forecast to remain mostly cloudy before the thunderstorm develop during the afternoon and evening. The agency has encouraged the public, particularly residents in the northern and transition belts, to stay alert for changing weather conditions and possible thunderstorms, while motorists are advised to exercise caution in areas affected by reduced visibility from early morning mist and fog. Moving on to some sports news. Ghana Football Association GFA President Kurt Edwin Simon Okreku has urged Ghanaians to remain optimistic about the future of the Black Stars and Ghana football despite the team's exit at the round of 32 of the 2026 FIFA World Cup, describing the campaign as a foundation for greater success in the years ahead. In a message addressed to Ghanaians and supporters of the national team across the globe, Mr. Simon Okreku expressed profound appreciation for the unwavering support shown to the Black Stars throughout their World Cup journey, while acknowledging the disappointment surrounding their elimination from the tournament. Reflecting on Ghana's performance, Mr. Simon Okreku noted that the Black Stars had exceeded the expectations of many football observers who questioned the team's ability to compete on football's biggest stage before the tournament began. According to him, the team's qualification from a challenging group into the knockout stages demonstrated resilience, determination, and character that should inspire pride among Ghanaians. Although Ghana fell short of progressing further in the competition, the GFA president maintained that the campaign should not be viewed solely through the lens of disappointment, but rather as an important milestone in the nation's football development. Moving on to some international news. The African Union has called for urgent collective action to confront rising insecurity in the Sahel, following coordinated terrorist attacks that struck multiple locations across Mali on July 4, 2026. In a statement issued on Sunday, July 5th, the chairman of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, strongly condemned the attacks which hit several communities in northern, central, and southern Republic of Mali. He described the attacks as a brutal assault on civilians and extended sincere condolences to the families of those who lost their lives. He expressed deep sympathy to all persons affected, reaffirming the African Union's solidarity with the Malian government and people during what he described as a difficult period. The chairman warned that the incident reflects the present and evolving threat of terrorism and violent extremism in Mali and across the wider Sahel, stressing that the region remains highly vulnerable to coordinated militant activities. He emphasized that the situation underscores the urgent need for strengthened collective efforts at national, regional, and continental levels to combat terrorism effectively, while ensuring full respect for international humanitarian law and the protection of civilians. The African Union reaffirmed its unwavering commitment to support Mali's authorities alongside regional and continental initiatives aimed at restoring peace, stability, and long-term security across Mali and the Sahel. Insurgents staged attacks on army positions across Mali, including in a northern town where government and Russian fighters are based in a town southern in the capital Bakoma, the latest threat to the landlocked Sahel nations and battled leaders. The assault stretched from the northern cities and towns in Anefis, Aleguho, and Gao in central Mali and Kaniroba in the south, the Malian Armed Forces said in a statement. We've come to the end of our news. The headlines once again. Lower Menya Krobo NDC members petition party over branch pool irregularities. Former NABCO CEO's lawyers threaten contempt action against AG over airport arrest. I'm carrying out my father's final directives, not seeking inheritance, Adjo Asafo. No degree is useless in an economy that works, Kweku Asari replies Educhum. Journalists can avoid defamation liability by ticking the right boxes, Tanko Musa. President Mahama celebrates US on 250th independence anniversary, reaffirming strong Ghana-US ties. No injuries recorded in Tema warehouse fire, Melcom. Northern and transition belt on alert as GMET predict widespread thunderstorms. The future of Ghana football remains, GFA President. AU condemns Mali attacks, urge urgent action against terrorism. As I said, we've come to the end of our news. I am Boatin Dorothy and I did this with Yasewa. Good morning.